guest of the day here at LibertyCon. This is Dan Humphreys, author of A Place Outside the Wild and Fade, both of which I've now read. I just finished Fade the other night, and I have a review up of A Place Outside the Wild. Welcome, Dan. Good to meet you.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So I guess we'll start off a little bit with let you talk about your books, how you got into writing, the books that you've written, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Actually, I've been writing for decades. I wrote a lot of short stories in school. My first book probably when I was 20, 21. It's kind of funny. I had a interesting experience. I thought I had signed with an agent and thought she was repping my book, but it turned out she was a scam artist. So that kind of was a morale shatterer there for a while. So I kind of gave it up for a while.
One of the interesting things since we got into publishing, and this had never occurred to me before we started, but starting to talk to all the other authors, is how many scams I've heard about, how many people get ripped off. Like, I would never have even thought about it. And I hear these stories about this, and I'm just like, holy cow, they did what?
I was incredibly lucky not to lose any money, and I'm very thankful for that. It's just an absolute crazy story. I mean, if you read it, you wouldn't even believe that it's true. The lady's name was Melanie Mills, and she faked her death. She tried to kill her mother by running her over with a car. It's really just a crazy story. And I got kind of suspicious because the way she was saying certain things, and did some digging, and I dodged a bullet there. But
we had the discussion with Hans earlier when he was on here that sometimes reality is so strange you can't put it in your fiction because people won't believe it.
Yeah, nobody would believe. It's nuts. It really is. But basically that was a huge, kind of shot to my confidence, I guess you'd say. So. For a long time, I focused more on my career and, was working, pretty late hours and didn't really have the time. And then summer of 2014, I got a job promotion, and I'm now working from home, virtual. So obviously, I no longer have any, hours in the car, to and from work, that sort of thing. So freed up a lot of my time, and my wife has been just a great champion as far as encouraging me to try to do it again. So I started writing, picked up again, and so far so good.
So A Place Outside the Wild was your first.
First published.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So did you write Fade first then, or did you?
No.
Okay.
Fade is completely new. Pretty much anything I had written before. I still have some of them. I haven't really looked back at them. I don't know if I want to do that, or I don't know. I feel like I've written quite a bit as a writer, so I'm not sure if I want to invest the time in redeveloping that stuff. So I've been trying to do new things and go forward from there. So.
What kicked you off, got you back into it again after all that? What did you just?
Mainly just the job change, having the time. That was the thing. Again, my wife encouraged me to do it, and because I would always, even when I quit, I would still have ideas that I would jot down. And I guess in a way that's a good thing, because now I've got a pretty good long list of plot ideas and potential ideas that can be developed. So that's good. I really didn't want to write a zombie book, which is what A Place Outside the Wild is. It wouldn't get out of my head, and I was wanting to write something else. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write this. I'll be done with it. I'll move on. I got Fade written, got it out, and now I'm back writing zombies again. So I can't get away.
What specifically was it about the story that you couldn't get out of your head?
The location is very much based on the area where I live. And driving around, I would see things that would make me think, okay, you could do this in that situation to keep yourself safe, and you could develop use this for this. And the centerpiece of the community in A Place Outside the Wild is a set of grain bins, and they use those as a kind of a final safe bunker. It serves as a observation point, just because of the higher up they can get. Indiana is extremely flat. There's very little terrain that you can see, obviously. So anything you can get up high, that's helpful. So basically, I turned my in-laws' parents into a fortress.
So moving on from a place outside the wild to Fade, which is a very different book, actually. It's just kind of a different experience altogether. What was it that made you want to get interested in that world and get started on that front, going from zombie up urban fantasy in a very Dresden Files kind of way, actually?
Well, I'm a huge urban fantasy fan. I love Supernatural. I love Jim Butcher, obviously, and really the character of Paxton just kind of, in a lot of ways, it's very autobiographical. Not so much that I have the parents that he does, but I've had some hard times in my own life. So it's kind of, in a way, it was therapeutic to show that a person can have that kind of trauma in their life and move past it.
That was something I did definitely like about the character, was that he didn't let everything weigh him down the way some people I know in real life do. And I enjoyed that.
Well, we haven't asked about LibertyCon. Like, what are you going up to this weekend at LibertyCon?
It's been pretty interesting so far. I've did an Authors Alley session, did a session in the dealer room, and a panel on Zombies Friday, which was pretty good. I was pretty tired at that time, but it was a pretty good session. And then it looks like tomorrow I've got an urban fantasy panel as well, so it kind of ties in to my bailiwick, I guess, that I've pushed. So until I add more bailiwicks, I guess.
Is this really your first con as on panels as an author, or have you done other ones? Or
Yes. This is I've attended. I've been to a MetroCon. I've been to a couple of Transformers conventions. But as far as actually being on something, this is my first time. So hopefully I haven't messed it up too bad.
I have not been into any of your panels this weekend. I have been into a lot of panels, and I can say that you'd have to go pretty low to mess it up worse than some others that I've seen. So hopefully that'll make you feel a little better.
That's good to hear.
If nobody was in the back of your panel snoring ridiculously loudly, you're doing better than 2 panels I have been in this weekend.
This weekend. No joke.
We kept them awake, so I think we did all right there. Yeah, no, everybody was there was some laughter and some good engagement, so I think we probably did all right then.
Is this your first time in Chattanooga?
Yes, other than driving through, yeah.
Okay. How do you like it?
It's pretty nice. My wife and I took some time today and went out and did some stuff outside the con, and it's just amazing, beautiful area. Plus, they have really fast internet. So I keep trying to talk her into moving. I'm not been able to get it accomplished so far.
I'm correct in saying that writing is not your full-time job. Is that?
No, I am a technical specialist for Xerox. So I basically sit at home and talk to technicians and customers and help them fix their problems, basically. So I was a field rep for almost 20 years. So I turned in my van and no longer drive almost 50,000 miles a year, which is nice. So
what other kinds of things? Obviously, you've written some stuff about zombies and written some urban fantasy. 2 questions. First of all, what else is on the horizon that you're looking at writing in the future?
Right now, I am working on a sequel to A Place Outside the Wild, which is called A Place Called Hope. If you've read the first book, that will make a lot of sense to you. About 2/3 of the way through where I anticipate it's going to be a little shorter, more focused on just a few characters rather than being as epic as the first one was. After that, my plan is to go ahead and get working on Night's Black Agents, which is the sequel to Fade. And then after that, it's a secret. I
take it by secret, not set in either of those 2 universes.
I cringe to say this just because of the negative connotations from Star Wars, but it will be a prequel to Fade. In a historical setting.
And second question, tied off of that, what kinds of things do you like to read?
I read pretty much everything. I like science fiction, obviously. John Ringo, Larry Correia, Tom Kratman, Jim Butcher is one of my favorites. But I also enjoy a lot of nonfiction. I've got a stack of history books on my bedside table. Right now, I'm working on a book called Days of Rage, which is by a journalist named Brian Burrow, and it's basically a history of anti-government terrorism within the United States, starting around the 50s, progressing through the Woodstock era and the hippies and that sort of thing. Talks about the Weather Underground and all those guys. It's pretty amazing stuff. And in a way, it kind of makes me hopeful for the current times, because as bad as we think it is, hundreds of bombings a year back in those days, and we haven't gotten to that point at least.
That's one thing that I've noticed myself. Not to tangent too far, but you see a lot of the stuff, and I remember hearing a lot like after the 9/11 attacks, people talking about how unimpressed were and how crazy it was. And one of the things I've noticed, I've heard of the book you're talking about. I've not read it myself yet, but one of the things that does strike me and struck me at that time was how much has happened before that people don't know about at all.
Oh, yeah.
Taught in history, and the people who lived through it don't seem to remember half of it. And it's like, but it happened. It was there. And I do agree a little bit. That does definitely give some hope for the modern age of thank God that we've lived through this sort of thing before. But at the same time, it's also really disconcerting how much has happened that people just don't talk about anymore. It's just not even known.
Yeah, there are descriptions of stuff in the book. I'm like having to, I will stop and flip a couple pages back to make sure I'm reading it right, because it boggles the mind. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the book is huge. It is 100 pages. It's very well footnoted with sources. He was able to interview and get people on the record that were involved in a lot of these movements, and so it's very well sourced, and it's incredible. If you have any interest in history at all, which I am a huge history buff. I really love just learning about what we've experienced in our past. I would definitely recommend it.
History buff myself, and that's into the question I was going to ask a minute ago too. What specific time periods and places in history do you prefer to read about, or all over the place?
I enjoy reading about World War II. My grandfather was served in the Pacific Theater, and I grew up hearing his stories, because he was kind of a surrogate father to me in a sense. Big inspiration in my life, really. My daughter's named after him, and I will probably be dedicating my next book to his memory, just because the influence he's had on me. I'm trying to think. I like right now. I've got the Burroughs book. I've got 2 World War II books. That's pretty much it. I've read David Drake and Eric Flint wrote a series called Belisarius, and it was set in Roman times. I can't remember. It was like 100 AD or something like that, and that kind of sparked some interest for me in that time period. So I read a little bit about that, and it's just kind of interesting because it's so long ago, but so many things that are recognizable in a sense, I guess. It's bad because I almost feel like the character in the Twilight Zone episode where he's stuck in the library after the nuclear war. There's not enough time in the day.
There isn't. I fight that problem a lot. I have a huge backload of stuff to read myself, and I fight through it, which is one of the reasons that it took me so long to get to A Place Outside the Wild. This is on the list. There's not enough hours in the day, unfortunately.
Could use
not short.
10 more hours in a day. 34-hour day. That would help.
Have you enjoyed the con so far? You've had a good time?
Yeah.
And
it's been an interesting experience. I wasn't really sure, what to expect as far as it seems it's definitely more author centric than I was expecting. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything different, knowing seeing just how many people are here. So it's been great from a marketing standpoint, meeting people and, just kind of making connections to folks that I've, known through social media or followed or whatever. Actually speak to them and, so that's been good.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks to talk to us, Dan. It was great. We've chatted a lot for a while. It's good to meet you. You have a great con for the rest of your time. Thanks for being on our program.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to do it.
That's it for this interview, and up next on 1.3 is Silver Empire author Declan Finn.